I spent 11 years as chef to the Queen at Buckingham Palace, travelling the world with Her Majesty to Sandringham, Windsor, Balmoral, Holyrood Palace and the Royal Yacht Britannia, wherever it was in the world. I used to love those yacht trips. I remember being on one trip and we were in Australia and the Queen had been invited to a dinner at Government House in Melbourne. And whenever the Queen would be invited to a dinner party at somewhere like this, they would always contact us ahead of time and say, well, what does the Queen like? What's her favourite foods? What doesn't she like? We'd always tell the different government houses that the Queen loved chocolate. She was a chocoholic. She loved chocolate, dark chocolate. The darker, the better. So off the Queen went to the banquet. We had the night off on board Britannia. When the Queen came back, she'd actually brought a recipe with her. They made a dish called chocolate Marquise, and the Queen loved this so much that she asked for the recipe. She never did that. And she wanted the chefs in the kitchen to make this and put it on the menu so she could serve it to her guests too. And that's what I'm going to be making today. Chocolate Marquise is really a really rich, chocolatey, fluffy, velvety, creamy mousse. Then it's frozen. But it doesn't freeze solid, it freezes quite soft. And so for us in the kitchen, when I was cooking for the Queen, it was fantastic because we could make them up, put them in the freezer. And if the Queen had a surprise guest and she wanted to serve a pudding, a dessert, then we could just go in the fridge, bring out a freezer, bring out the chocolate Marquise, and it's sliced perfect. So with a little fruit or a little coffee creme anglaise to garnish, we had the perfect dessert ready for Her Majesty. So let's make it. It's easy to make. I want you to make it at home. The recipe will be in the description below, okay? So do the little clicky there. I don't know what it's called, I'm old. But anyway, click on the description and you'll find the recipe in there, and then you can make this one at home. So we start off on our machine and we're going to cream some butter and some sugar. Try and get the butter at room temperature because that's definitely going to cream much better. So some cream and sugar in there, and then we'll just cream those together. And we want them so they're nice and light and fluffy, and that means that we'll have to keep scraping the bowl down. Once we've got the butter and sugar nice and creamy and light and fluffy, then we're going to add in some egg yolks and some cocoa as well, the dark cocoa, and a little brandy. Now, if you're doing this for the kids and you're worried about the brandy in there, then you can actually use orange juice in there if you want to. Back on the machine and just mix all of this together. Once it's all mixed together, and it needs to be on the machine for quite a while, because what happens is as it's beating away in there, the sugar starts to dissolve. And so if you only do it quickly, you'll end up with like a gritty sugar in there, and that's the last thing we want. While it was mixing and dissolving the sugar, I actually melted some chocolate. And as I said, the Queen loved chocolate, darker the better. And so in this recipe, I like to use chocolate that is over 60%. You know, a real dark chocolate. If you love milk chocolate, that's going to work in this too. So milk chocolate, orange juice for the kids, maybe a little grated orange zest in there as well. The perfect treat. Milk chocolate doesn't work as well because milk chocolate is not really chocolate, is it? You knew that. Then I've taken some cream and whipped the cream. Now, it's not really stiff cream. I want it a little soft. If you beat it too stiff, it's really hard to fold into the mixture. So I'll take first of all, my bowl here. Oh, and then also I'm going to pour this into just a 1 pound loaf tin, and I've lined it with plastic wrap. That's cling film across the pond. So it'll just be easier when it comes out. Take my chocolate, and into there I'm going to add my chocolate mix. I'm going to whisk this, doesn't matter if the cream's on there, into the chocolate. Look at that, looks gorgeous already. Next, I'm going to add my cream in there. And start by just folding this in with a whisk and whisking it slightly. We've got to get it mixed in really quickly because we don't want all the air to break down in the cream and it to go too runny. I'm going to switch back to my spatula and now just cut and fold. And you see I get all that chocolate off the bottom, and that makes sure that everything is mixed in. Now we've got the perfect base, or rather the perfect chocolate Marquise, so it's going to go into the mold. If you're doing a dinner party, you can slice this, and I'll show you that in just a few minutes once it's frozen, because I have one ready made. And if you want to, you can actually do it in ramekins, little ramekins. So we just want to make it nice and flat. Now all that's left to do is to fold over the plastic, press down slightly, and it goes into the freezer for, it needs 24 hours, so overnight, but it can sit in there for 3 months and you just bring it out and then slice it as you need it. To serve with my chocolate Marquise, I'm going to make a little coffee creme anglaise. And coffee creme anglaise is like a custard, but it's obviously got that coffee flavor in there. If you really want to kick it up a notch, then a little bit of Tia Maria or something like that, a little Kahlua in there, really nice. But this is a basic coffee creme anglaise that we'll make now, put in the fridge, and then tomorrow we can just whisk it and then serve around the chocolate Marquise when we slice it. If you don't like coffee, then you can do a vanilla one, or you can do a little orange sauce. You know, I said earlier about putting orange in there. Or you can actually puree some raspberries, strawberries, a little sugar, lemon juice in there, and serve that around the chocolate. Or you can just eat the chocolate Marquise on its own. But to make our coffee creme anglaise, I start off with some egg yolks and then I put some sugar in there. Then I'm adding espresso coffee. And I'm going to take some cream and bring that to the boil. Whisk together the egg yolks, the sugar and the coffee. Now, some chefs will say you've got to temper this, add a little cream back in the pot, add a little more cream. You don't need to. Mix everything together, pour in the cream, whisk it all together, then it goes back in the pot. So right now we have the consistency of water. You know, if I lift my whisk like that, it's like water. So it goes back in the pot. And what I'm going to do is put it back on the stove and cook it on low and stir it backwards and forwards. And that starts to cook the eggs. Remember, we've got egg yolks in there. And that, when it's done, is the consistency of fresh cream, heavy cream, when it comes out the fridge. You know, it's much thicker than water. That's what we're looking for. When it sets up, the perfect pouring sauce. Now when I'm doing creme anglaise or even a creme brulee, because it's the same method, I like to go backwards and forwards with my spatula, because obviously the heat is on the bottom of the pan and the eggs are starting to cook on the bottom. So when it gets to temperature, you'll see it start to thicken a little bit. See, we're almost getting there now. And then as it thickens, just turn the heat down really low, because we don't want to overcook it. I can promise you, coffee scrambled eggs are nasty. Once we've got that temperature, just keep giving it a stir. And then turn off the heat altogether. And see how that texture has changed of this sauce. When it went on the stove, it was just like water. And most chefs will tell you that a telling sign of when you've got the right consistency is if you take the spatula and you run your finger along the middle and the sauce holds, you see, like that, doesn't run down. That tells you it's ready. I'm going to transfer the sauce into a bowl to cool. If you leave it in the pan, the residual heat in the pan will actually keep it cooking, and you'll get those dreaded coffee scrambled eggs. In the fridge, let it cool. Normally takes an hour or so in there. Put a piece of plastic wrap, cling film over the top, and then that stops the skin forming on it. In the morning, give it a whisk over, and it's perfect to be ready for the marquise. Once your chocolate marquise is set up, you can take it out of the mold and just carefully lift up that plastic wrap and then pop it onto the board like that. Now, to serve it, I like to use a knife and that I've dipped in hot water, and I don't wipe the blade because leaving it slightly wet makes a really nice shine on the chocolate as you cut into it. Look, so you cut down, we don't want that first piece, and then right down. You can cut off as many slices as you want, and the rest goes back in the freezer. The marvel of this dish, right? So my coffee creme anglaise, I can now either pour over the dish, over the marquise, or I'm actually just doing a little bit there on the plate. Then I have these chocolate transfer sheets, and you buy the sheets. If you've never seen them before, you have, but if you've never seen them before, I'll put a link to them in the description where you can buy them. There's many different colors and sizes, and for different occasions too. And you just run some melted chocolate over the top, but you get the design on the bottom. So I cut some circles in there, and then I can pop out these circles. Look how pretty that is. So we'll just pop those on there just for decoration. Well, and more chocolate. And finally, just a little edible orchid for decoration. Chocolate marquise, one of the Queen's favourite recipes, so much so, she asked for the recipe when she was out for dinner. It's a super easy dish to make at home. You can make it in minutes, just like I did. And the recipe's in the description. The chocolate discs shows you how to make them just by running the chocolate over the transfer sheet. The transfer sheet link is in the description too. And then I have a little coffee creme anglaise to go with it. Beautiful dessert. This will really impress your friends. Hope you've enjoyed the recipe. Leave a comment below. Give me a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already. And tell your friends. We're almost at 400,000 subs. And I'll see you again soon. I should try it really, shouldn't I? Oh, so much chocolate, so rich.